30 years ago today, it was Clint Eastwood Day on television. He appeared on Entertainment Tonight, Showbiz Today on CNN, and Good Morning America promoting his latest film, Unforgiven. The Western was an homage to the films that took Eastwood from being a television star to a movie star, the spaghetti westerns and such. And it won Clint the Oscar for Best Director, also won for Best Movie, Best Picture, Best Editing. Clint did not, however, win the Oscar for Best Actor. But a great film, and it was one of the films that was put into the National Archive. That's how revered Clint's work is. So enjoy these interviews and little promo pieces for the film Unforgiven that aired 30 years ago today.
Hello everyone and welcome to Showbiz Today. Beginning Friday, Clint Eastwood will be back on the big screen and back in the saddle again with a Western called Unforgiven. Senior entertainment correspondent Bill Tush talked with the star about the film and about a career that has made him one of the world's true superstars.
Just about everything that walks or crawls at one time or another. And I'm here to kill you, little Bill.
What do you think of your tough guy image?
My what?
Your tough guy image.
I don't think much of it at all. I never think about it. I just, the parts I play are the parts I play, and I play the individual part for what it is.
Maybe that's why, in Unforgiven, Eastwood plays Will Money, a pig farmer, widowed with 2 kids, who once was one of the meanest gunfighters in the Old West. When the opportunity arises to work as a paid assassin, Money once again straps on the 6-shooters.
Guy is a little bit rusty at some of the things he's done because he hasn't been an outlaw for a long time. He hasn't been a guy who's been involved in any mayhem, so he's kind of rusty. He's become more of a gentle person.
Unforgiven, like many Clint Eastwood projects, is all him. He's the director and producer, and it's under the umbrella of Malpaso Productions, Eastwood's company. He formed it back in the days when he was becoming a star in the so-called spaghetti westerns, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
You formed your company in 1968. Were there a lot of actors at the time that had the foresight to do that? I mean, to say, I want total control of what I'm going to do?
At that time, there weren't many actors doing that, but a couple were. Some successfully, some maybe not.
Did you know back then that the reason why you wanted to do it was to be able to call your own shots?
I was kind of building towards the fact that maybe I'd be directing films someday, maybe I'd be producing films someday, but I didn't know. I just sort of formed it and then let it happen. And then one thing led to another.
It led to Eastwood having enough clout in the world of filmmaking to pick projects that appealed to him. There was the critically acclaimed Bird, the story of jazz great Charlie Bird Parker, and more recently, White Hunter, Black Heart, a box office flop. For the record, though, there have been more hits than misses.
Do you pick and choose just for your own self, or do you worry about box office tallies?
I pick and choose for my own self. I try to just tell a worthy story, and if people go to it, that's up to them.
Do you remember the days when you did TV commercials?
I did one for Greyhound, and it never went anywhere. And I did another one for American Dairy Products.
Nothing matches milk.
Watch your cholesterol when you watch it.
Bill Tush, CNN Entertainment News, New York.
Thing that walks or crawls at one time or another. And I'm here to kill you, little Bill.
Unforgiven might look like a typical Clint Eastwood Western, but it's not. In it, he plays a former gunman who's come to learn that violence hurts and killing isn't easy.
One of the intriguing things about Unforgiven is its exploration of violence and of killing.
It is unusual. I've done pictures where the violence didn't have much meaning to it, or it was just there, and there was a set of circumstances traveling by rather quickly. And someone might say, well, he's doing penance for his past or something like that. But it isn't. It's something I've always been intrigued about.
Eastwood has always explored the dark side of the Western myth, even in the first Western he directed almost 20 years ago, High Plains Drifter. and with it, he signaled his intentions to follow an unconventional path in this traditional movie genre.
I don't know if you've ever made a typical Western. I don't think you could describe any of the Westerns you've made as a filmmaker or as an actor as being typical.
No, I've always kind of struck out. I think even from the very beginning with the Italian-made Westerns, they were different, but they were operatic in their way and satiric. I remember John Wayne writing me a letter one time years ago, putting down the High Plains Drifter as something fierce because he felt that was not the West. He was more from the cavalry things. The Searchers, some very fine films, but it's just a different generation coming on, and I was trying to do a career that was not repetitive of something he'd done or Gary Cooper or anyone else had done.
Well, do you, punk?
Could you ever see yourself playing Dirty Harry again?
I don't think so, Leonard, because I don't know where I'd take him at this point. I don't know, unless someday there's a cop drama comes along that has the same kind of challenges that Unforgiven had for me as a Western. Then maybe it might be something, but I don't know. And to play the exact same character, there comes a time when you've got to move along. The audiences have to move along with you.
Unforgiven, Eastwood, producer, director, and star, is back in the saddle once again, and Chantal spoke with him about his return to the Western.
Where you shot this movie looked so beautiful to me. How far did you go to find that? I know you were in Canada.
Well, we were in Alberta province of Canada, which is extremely beautiful because it has both the plains and the wheat fields and the stark, arid land of the east, and it has very beautiful Rocky Mountains, unparalleled country in the west. And so it gives you a wide variety. Say within a 100-mile radius, you could make it look like you were in 5 different states.
This is a film that certainly has enormously powerful characters in it, and to my way of thinking, even more powerful actors in it. But it is the women in this movie who make things happen.
Most Westerns I've been involved with, and anyone's been involved with, usually the women play a secondary role to the action of the men. But to me, it's important to find. It was important to have that momentum of the female presence in this one. Even though it's got male stars predominantly on the marquee, it's an appealing story from that standpoint to women.
All right, so what these fellas do? Cheated cards, steal some strays, spit on a rich fella, what?
No, they cut up a woman.
What?
Yeah, cut up her face, cut her eyes out, cut her fingers off.
Well, guess they got it coming.
I guess dating back to the beginning of movies in general, Western has been a very American art form. It has spread Americana to a lot of countries over the years.
Yeah, I remember Culpeper Cattle Company, and I think of Heaven's Gate even as a great Western.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a ton of them over the years. Well, I date back to the Westerns that I loved the most was the Oxbow Incident and Darling Clementine, some of those John Ford and William Wellman and people like that did.
This Western, it seems to me, has a great deal to do with morality. And that's what those old Westerns had to do with, don't you think?
Yes, I think so.
It's not just shoot-'em-ups so much, although certainly we should talk about the violence.
The action is there, but it's not without consequence. It's not without feelings and pain and remorse. And how do you deal with that? It's not just nameless people being shot off of a building somewhere. There's taking life is a serious thing.
It don't seem real. I ain't gonna never bring it again, ever. He's dead. All on account of pulling a trigger.
It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away all he's got, and all he's ever gonna have. I think that's an important thing to tell. Even for today's, even by today's 1992 standards, it's especially important.
It seems to me that I would be almost fearful to play a role like William, because I would be afraid of the things it would touch in me, the darkness in me.
You know, as an actor, it's actually enjoyable to delve into things that may you delve into your securities, insecurities, various glitches that you might have faced in your personality at some point in the past. Maybe you've overcome.
It just occurs to me that as an actor, you do have a luxury that I don't have. You have the ability to sort of push that crazy button where I'm an interviewer. I can't do that. I have to be...
That's true. You always have to be in control.
I do.
I think that, the other aspect is the humorous aspect. You can play, you can be a Walter Mitty-esque kind of person as an actor. You can play the craziest roles, you know, and enjoy yourself. But it's also fun to just tap new ground all the time. Otherwise, it would be very boring if you had to portray the same thing year in, year out.
And we will have more with Clint Eastwood tomorrow. Coming up, singer Sophie.
A man whose interests reach beyond the big screen.
I, Clint Eastwood.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
I ran for office once in my own community and ran for a 2-year term. I enjoyed it very much. I wouldn't, but I wouldn't quit what I do for a living to go become a professional politician. Or I'm not the kind of a guy who speaks on a lot of subjects. When I do speak on a subject that I'm passionate about, I'll save it for that. But if you speak on a lot of subjects, then you become kind of worn out.
You know, I would not ask you one because I respect you enormously as an actor and director, but also because you're my friend. I would not invade your personal choices and say, Clint, who are you voting for in this race? Are you ever concerned or aware that because of who you are, there's a certain power that you have that might sway people who wouldn't know which way they were going?
I never think of that. I always figure people, if they don't know, they should be able to make up that decision for themselves. I was disappointed that Mr. Perot dropped out only because I thought that it would at least create a lot of interest. Having that third party, that third entity in the race, would create a presidential election that we haven't had for many, many years, where you have both the major parties coming up with their rhetoric and someone else coming in with something new. I was sorry to see him drop out for that reason. I don't know whether he'd have gone all the way anyway, but I'd like to have seen that continue on, at least for the sake of debate.
So many people were just furious at Ross
Well,
Perot.
I think what Americans out there held out, and I felt the same way, and I held out hope, is that the country has got to be run like a business. Eventually, we've got to get down to where we run it like a business. We've got to start saying, okay, you're not going to spend more than you take in, just like you would budget your own life. And we've got to start doing that, or we're going to go insane. We're just going to keep printing money, and everything will be out of control. I think a lot of people thought, well, why not take the ultimate successful businessman and put him in charge of the country?
Do you think that people are afraid of stepping into a political arena in order to make a difference, like, let's say you, because once they're in it, they get caught up in the rigmarole?
Well, absolutely. You've got so many people fighting for and against you. Every decision you make is going to make someone unhappy and someone happy. So it's a tough thing. It's tough to have people sniping at you all the time, have the press sniping away at you. The legitimate press is questioning certain things, and the illegitimate press is digging up your background or some stupid thing you might have done a long time ago. We've watched that happen with politicians recently, in recent years, and it's really an embarrassment. I mean, we should. Why are we so concerned about that kind of stuff? Why aren't we concerned about what's going to happen?
Well, let me ask you this. There are probably men, it's very likely there are men watching this interview right now, who will look at you and say, here's a man who is successful, he's powerful, he's wealthy, I envy him. Should they envy you?
I don't think so. I think they ought to envy themselves. If they've got their health and they've got the health of their loved ones around them, they ought to just be very happy and continue and be appreciative, because you really don't have much else.
Yeah.
You have a certain amount of time on the planet. You do the best you can with it, and enjoy yourself and make a difference where you can and if you can, and treat everybody right.
You and I, as long as I have known you, you and I have both been single people. We remain single today. Are people always trying to fix you up? Are people always trying to say, Clint, I've got a great girl for you?
There are people who've suggested that, but I always like taking care of myself, and there's nothing wrong with being single, and there's certainly nothing wrong with matrimony. It's just whatever people are lucky enough to meet up with someone that they can be completely compatible with, and it goes the whole distance. I say more power to them. That's fantastic.
Interesting man, Clint Eastwood. Almost 48 minutes past the hour. Good Morning America continues in just a moment.
Clint Eastwood made his film acting debut in 1955 in Revenge of the Creature.
Thank you for watching Cleveland Live Music. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. There's Patreon and GoFundMe information in the video descriptions. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making the channel grow so much.